On today's episode of Secrecy Scaling Your E-commerce Brand, I got a chance to chat with Adam Robinson from retention.com. We talked all things to do with retention.com. We talked about the legality of what it's like to work with retention. We talked about Adam building in public. We talked about one of his new B2B offerings that they're building in the background. Guys, you are not going to want to miss this one. Hey guys, Jordan West back with another episode of Secret to Scaling Your E-commerce Brand. Today, I'm joined by the founder, CEO, I believe, over at retention.com. Adam Robinson, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. And I am the CEO.
Perfect.
Until further notice.
You know, it's so funny because I feel like as founders and just business people in general, I just never care about titles. I just don't care.
No,
like
but other
whatever
people
title,
do.
But
other people care a lot.
Other people really care about titles.
Yeah.
I had just this incredible salesperson apply at our agency recently. And so we were negotiating back and forth a little bit. And she was like, yeah, and for title, I don't know. I kind of like the ring of Chief Revenue Officer. How do you feel? And I was like, well, I don't care about titles, but I'm not giving you that title.
Yeah, exactly.
Not yet.
Like,
you can earn that.
Did you hire that person?
Oh yeah. Yes.
Are they good?
Yeah.
Is that person good? Is she good?
She's phenomenal. I stole her from, well, I didn't steal her. She had left Northbeam, but she brought in 97 brands in 9 months. So don't even think about going after her, Adam. That's all I'm going to say. Okay.
97 brands in 9 months, huh? Did she just take Northbeam CRM and like?
I haven't asked about that yet, but I'm hoping it's going to be a package deal. Adam, for people who don't know anything about you or retention.com, tell me a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Sure. So what retention.com does is, for generally speaking, large Shopify stores, so people over, I don't know, 2 or 3 million in revenue.
Yeah.
We have technology that helps you identify anonymous people on your site. You're like, why would I want to do that? There's 2 reasons. Number one, email pop-ups don't actually work that well. They'll grab maybe like 2% of the emails of the people on your site. We have a way to identify somewhere between 20 and 35% of those people and give you the email addresses, which is phenomenal. It's 10 times better.
Okay. What do you do with them?
Put them in Klaviyo and mix them in with a newsletter and work them down your funnel and convert them. How's that legal? How does it work? What do you send these people?
Adam, how are you allowed to do that? So just, I didn't mention to you before, I'm coming to you all the way from the Great White North of Canada. And I don't think we can do that in Canada, right?
So Canadian companies can do it with their US traffic.
Gotcha.
You can't do it in Canada to Canadians, but it doesn't matter where the company's domiciled. It matters where the traffic happens.
Gotcha.
So it's US only. IPs are ring fenced. Every email address has a US postal address. It's only for the United States. Can't do it in Europe. Can't do it in Canada.
Yeah.
But that's how it's legal, because the email laws in the US are much more laxed than they are in Canada or Europe. So
let's dive in on the retention.com. Guys, I want to get to, if you guys haven't followed Adam, and him building in public right now, definitely worth, we're going to be talking a little bit about that after. Just while we're talking about retention.com, I just want to dive into this because I have so many questions. I feel like I've had so many discussions with people about retention.com. And so I'm kind of looking forward to just asking you some of these questions here. Do these emails actually...
I'm ready. But believe it or not, I'm an open book.
Great. Perfect. And that's why I was pumped to, I rarely am like reaching out to get people on the podcast, especially software people, because normally they come to me.
Yeah.
And Adam hadn't come to me yet. And I was like, okay, fine. I'm going to come to you. I'm going to bug you on LinkedIn and whatever. And you better come on here and answer my questions. So
I'm going to answer all your questions.
So these 20 to 30% of people that we, then identify their email, put them into Klaviyo and start sending to them. How do we not get caught in spam traps because they didn't ever opt in? That's what I'm worried about, is like, there's no opt-in for these people.
Yeah. So there's a lot of naming convention stuff in that question that you asked. So one of the ways we clean emails before we give them to you is we're buying a bunch of open and click data from the rest of the email ecosystem. And we won't give somebody an email address unless we have like a logged click in the last like 24 hours or something like that.
Wow. Okay.
Spam traps don't click on emails, but a spam trap is not a spam complaint.
Yes.
A spam trap is when a Gmail address goes unused for 18 months and now Gmail is all of a sudden made that a honeypot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's
so
what
you start sending to this email address that isn't active.
Yeah, that's what a spam trap is. Spam traps can't engage. So if the primary method by which you are cleaning these emails is engagement, then it will eliminate the dangerous spam traps from making it over to your email list.
And that's something you guys do in the background before it ever hits
Yes.
Klaviyo.
Yes. Like, I mean, we have a lot of the storied Shopify brands everybody's heard of, Dr. Squash, BlendJet, like True Classic, Bulletproof, they all crush. These guys would not continue using our service unless
Totally.
there was absolutely nothing dangerous happening to them, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's just for my business more than anybody else's. I think the social proof is like valuable beyond. Like Warby Parker, one of the first true D2Cs, has been using what I just described for like the last 3.5 years. They're one of our first customers and pay us
Awesome.
20 grand a month for it. So one part of it is cleaning the list. The other part is a lot of people don't really understand how spam filters work. And I think the big gap in understanding is email is a game of reputation.
Okay.
Reputation you build up over a long period of time and you can destroy it in an instant, right? What destroys email reputation? If all of a sudden you send an email newsletter and it was performing within these acceptable metric guidelines, if it's all of a sudden way worse than that in terms of low positive engagement and high negative engagement,
Yeah.
you are going to get screwed. Like
Yeah.
in one of like basically 3 ways. Like either Klaviyo is going to catch it before it gets to the email providers and they're going to make your life hell, or even worse, the email providers block one of Klaviyo's shared IPs that you're on and they trace it back to you, and that's like even worse. Or like then there's a situation for bigger guys that are on dedicated IPs. However you do that, you do not want that to happen to you. It will cause months of headache, right? Which is the fear around this technology. When I
Totally.
say this stuff, you're
Yeah.
like, well, how is that not going to happen to me?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, Adam, this is why I wanted to have you on,
yeah,
because I was like,
right,
I
right, right.
don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't get how
So,
you're getting
so,
around all this.
so we won't sell this to brands below a few million in revenue. Why?
Okay.
Because generally speaking, a few million in revenue and beyond, brands are sending either daily newsletters or newsletters 3 times a week. There's an existing mail stream going out,
Yeah.
right? Starting at about 3, 4, 5 million in revenue, there's this magical combination of the emails that brand has accumulated over the years that are being sent to regularly, the amount of traffic that we can resolve, and it comes in at a rate that is very small compared to the rest of their email program. What am I talking about? We literally will throttle the emails coming in at around 2 to 3% of the average
I
number
gotcha.
of sends in a given day.
Gotcha.
Mathematically, what's happening there is you're exactly right. Like there's a known metric, which is a little bit misunderstood. The metric is 1 out of 1,000 complainers. More than that, and that's a problem. More than 1 out of 1,000 complainers, and you probably got these emails in a way that you weren't supposed to.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, and that's how the ISPs, that's how like Gmail, Hotmail, Yahoo, that's how they evaluate.
Yeah.
Now, half of people's email lists are Gmail. They don't actually report on this. So the number in Klaviyo is really, if half of people's lists are Gmail, it's really like 1 in 2,000,
Okay.
right? Like that you need to be at. So obviously these emails are going to be higher than 1 in 1,000. It's not going to be 1 in 100, but it will be like 2, 3, 4, 5 in 1,000. However,
Yeah.
if what you're sending, if you mix them in with a newsletter that's 50 times the size of the number of emails, that's 5 in 1,000.
Yeah.
Those complaints are way below this 1 in 1,000 threshold on the whole send.
Gotcha. Because you're sending like 100K sends a day or whatever that is.
Exactly.
And yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
On the whole day, this tiny population of hot emails, meaning really high positive engagement, but also slightly too high negative engagement, they just get lost. I call it email laundering. Like that's effectively with that
Yeah.
product, that's what we're doing. we have another product that's totally above board, by the way, which like I'm way more excited about. It's like, so,
But
but
our
I'll let
listeners
you,
aren't nearly as excited about your
y-
above board product as
yeah,
this one.
yeah, yeah. No, I get it. They should be,
No.
but like this one is the one that everybody's like, you should be in jail or whatever, right? Like,
Let me have a couple more questions on this
yeah,
one, and
yeah,
then
yeah, yeah,
I do want to hear about what else you're doing because
yeah.
again, I mean, the only reason that I've reached out to you and that I know about you is because of you building in public and talking about all of this stuff and
Sure.
the heartache that goes along with with especially with building a product in public, which is very scary, right? It's very scary as you're like we all know what's going on with Adam right now, right?
Yeah.
But I think that that's why
It's
I,
not as
I
good as I thought it was going to be when I started building in public. Tell you that much.
well, especially with that, with having a slightly controversial product as well, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think that there's that. So, walk me through what you do with these email addresses after. Do these go into like just go into your regular list, or do you have a separate list with a separate onboarding sequence for them? Like, what does that look like
So like,
on that side?
I think I don't know what we're always getting better at doing this and onboarding people. I'm not exactly sure what the current, like, I think they're tagged, right? People can put them in their own segment. So if they ever want to exclude them, they can.
Yeah,
But we basically create a segment that will hold all of the new contacts in until the next newsletter goes out. And then it sends them with the next newsletter. And if they engage in
and
the
do
first
but
couple,
do they go into a welcome series first? Like when they come in,
so
are they coming in
this
just like
is
a regular opt-in?
so this is this is the thing that's a little bit counterintuitive. The way to cold email, like it's way more about get mixed in than it is about content, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it
It's
is
a totally
way
different way to
more
think
about
about it.
like when it comes to somebody who didn't raise their hand, it
Yeah,
is way more important for you to hide that group of people in a larger send than it is to appropriately introduce them to your brand the first time.
interesting. Okay.
Just from a numbers standpoint, right? Like
Yeah,
appropriately introducing them to your brand. Like we actually used to tell people, copy your welcome series, change the subject line to thanks for stopping by the site. Like that's fine, but it actually draws attention
yeah. To
to
the fact
this
that you
batch of
scrape
emails.
them.
Whereas
Yeah,
if you don't do that and you just mix them in the newsletter, it's like, okay, some people unsubscribe, some people complain, but like just as many people buy,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
they're not. So with the analysis we've done, of course, with any welcome series, it's like with these emails, the first email was the highest performing in terms of people purchasing,
Yeah.
but 80% of the purchases came after the welcome series,
Gotcha.
mostly well after. Like I did analysis on Ryan from BlendJet's accounts. Like his average purchase from our emails occurs 6 months after we give them to him,
Wow.
which is wild.
Wow.
It's just a lot of sending, right? Like,
Yeah.
so it's like a, it's like a branding effect, right? Like it's,
I g
but this is the
I get
nature
the
of
use
this.
case.
Yeah,
I get
this is
it.
the nature of this strategy. It's like, it's just a different way you're doing something that is different and we know how to do it because we've been doing it for several years. And like this is just how to do it. It doesn't make immediate sense or logical sense in a lot of ways. It's like, well, if I, but like think about the promotions folder of you, me, anyone, right?
Yeah.
Like what's in there? I have no idea. Right? Like when's the last time I saw
Well,
a
do you manage
welcome
your own inbox?
no, but when's the last time I saw a welcome series? You know what I mean? It's like I just think the difference between like,
That's a
getting
really
a
good point.
newsletter from someone in your promotions folder, it's like, I don't know what's in there right now. I don't know how I got signed up for all that stuff, right? And I think that's accurate for 100% of people these days. So,
Yeah.
you know, got to think about that
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. Interesting. Adam, let's move over to some of the other stuff that you're developing right now. What are you excited about? What's, getting you out of bed in the morning as far as your product roadmap?
Yeah, so like I did a monthly update I guess 3 weeks ago now. It's the 21st already. Jeez Louise. So we have been focused on the Shopify Plus audience and we're going to take the plunge and like build a Shopify app that's like freemium in some way
Okay.
to just be able to basically, I mean, it won't do what we're talking about. It's going to do the other thing, which is Apple has made it so that Klaviyo can only track people for 7 days. They used to be able to
Yeah.
track people for 2 years, right? So we're going to have a Shopify app that extends that to 2 years again. So what does that do? It basically 2 to 3x's Klaviyo's ability to send abandoned carts, abandoned browse, abandoned checkout, like this stuff.
Gotcha.
So that's what the Shopify app's going to do.
So
Excited about that.
this is going after Blotout
Like,
ish.
I don't think that Blotout is focused on their Shopify app. Blotout
Okay.
is very much trying to sell to mid-market. And so yeah, that was what I was going to say. The other product is, so this is where it gets, it becomes an incredibly complex topic of conversation. If I look at Blotout and Elevar's website, so it's like, these guys were doing this for another purpose, like tag management, meta ads or whatever.
Yep.
They figured out that it also helped Klaviyo, 6 months ago, something like that.
Yeah.
They all
Yeah.
did.
Very recently.
We were doing abandoned cart audience expansion a year and a half ago,
Yeah.
using not some of the ways they were doing it, but like this other type of identity we were doing. Right. So kind of like achieving something similar in a different way.
Gotcha.
We basically have the Klaviyo product that's identical to theirs. It's like fully above board. It's like whatever. We're doing some stuff that is still above board, but more aggressive than they're willing to do. Like
Yeah.
we have people that we're identifying from our publisher network that are still opted in. It's just, at this point, it's like so mumbo jumbo, whatever.
I love it. I love that you're pushing. Yeah, we're doing that, but we're just going that next little level. Like, that gets me excited.
There's
because
totally. Yeah.
yeah,
So I think it's like, I wouldn't say that Blotout and us are going after each other. We're doing something totally, it's like we have this one product that there's overlap, but like they're over here with like, they want to be conservative and they want to be a meta partner first. And like, they want to be this,
Yeah.
they want to do that. Like, I'm trying to like do aggressive shit to make brands money and like whatever's
Totally.
legal, right? Like, it's just
Yeah.
a different philosophical. And it's like, we're both startups. Like, we're at 20 million ARR, they're at 4 or 5 or something. It's like, you don't really go after someone who's 5 million in revenue. You know what I mean? It's like, you go after Google, right? Like like all of this
people
stuff
have no
is
idea
like,
how big markets are.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. It's like something, a Y Combinator blog said it best. It's like, startups don't kill other startups,
no,
right? Like,
totally.
so like focusing
caring
on the
about other startups kills your startup.
yeah, it's like focusing
that's what you're
on,
focused on.
I think it's, I just think it's good, whatever. It's like, we're all going about solving these problems that are real in sort of different ways. And it's like Blotout has this thing that they're doing, and like Black Crow sort of stole it from Blotout, but now they're trying to like make a CDP or something. And like,
Yeah.
Klaviyo just made a CDP. Good luck with that, and like, so like, all this is to say is like, I'm trying to do what Blotout and Elevar are kind of doing for people, but for somebody making $100,000 a year in their store and not like several million, which I don't think that they're, this is not what they're
I don't think they're
on,
thinking
right?
about that either.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, that's what that's all about. We also need to drift up market with our current offering, which we spent the whole podcast talking about, right? Like, bigger and bigger companies will start wanting those email addresses as things continue to get harder, right? Like, 5 years ago, nobody in the mid-market would do it. Now, I bet you 50% of people will. 5 years from now, probably 80% of them will, so long as it's legal.
I was getting a little at the Sendlane conference. I was trying to get, I was like, hey, what do you think about retention.com? I'm going to be talking to Adam this week. And it's very mixed. Like, the bigger brands are like, yeah, we've used them for ages. They make us tons of money.
Yeah. I mean, it's, I just think it's like more and more you lose the luxury of having principles, right? Like, Apple is making this so fucking hard that like, people are just it's like, if you know that this is a possibility, then you at least do your research, I think. So
totally.
So yeah. And then the thing that I'm probably most excited about is not even about the D2C side. And it's actually because of the work in public stuff. So like, we're going to start with B2B SaaS, people kind of like 10K ACV, maybe they have 5 salespeople or more, maybe they're venture funded or whatever. And it's like, LinkedIn URL, business email, phone number, and page view history of people on B2B SaaS sites that you just hand to the sales organization or pump it in Salesforce or something,
Yeah.
right? And like super
Uh,
low price, $500 a month for 1,000 leads or whatever.
Look, keep going on this B2B item because I'm really interested in this, Adam. So this is a completely like you're serving a completely different audience with the B2B offering. Is that right?
Oh yeah, they're B2B SaaS companies. It's totally different than ecom for sure.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to
Yeah.
see. I'm like, is there some kind of connection, or are we trying to find
No,
wholesalers for ecom?
no,
Like,
no, it's not even ecom B2B. It's just straight B2B SaaS. And so I have this COO, which if you've been following my work in public, then you've heard this name Santosh. He like was instrumental in Zoom Info growing and this other data company called Apollo.io, which ecom people wouldn't really know, but every B2B company does. And he's been pushing this B2B angle for a long time. I became open to it when we gave one of our BDRs this spreadsheet of people that were on the site. And he was like, dude, like relative to the cold outreach that I was trying to do, like these leads are just obviously way better, right? Like
so
that
these are people
is,
that come to the site.
yeah. So like somebody who like
This is great because
looked at your pricing page or whatever, will give
yeah,
you their LinkedIn
yeah,
URL so that you can hand it to whoever's doing outbound sales for you and they can do whatever they do with a hot lead, right? Like,
totally, yeah, because
you
that
know,
is a hot lead.
maybe it's in your CRM, maybe it's not. Like the idea is just like you throw out anybody who's not in your ideal customer profile, and then you take what's remaining and do whatever you're going to do, right? Like,
Are you going to have like HubSpot integrations or CRM
yeah,
integrations or Zapier or something
mhm,
to put them into that list?
yep, yeah.
I love that.
Ultimately we'll have integrations with everything.
I love that. I want to know when
Totally.
that product comes out because I also love the B2B space as much as I love our ecom brands. B2B is just a blast, and
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
so much that can be done.
And what's interesting to me is I really didn't, and I mean, this is probably a good time to switch to the founder brand conversation. Like, I didn't really know. I thought what I was doing was somewhat directionless until a few months ago. Just, I like started with a ghostwriter and then I'm like, how's this stuff ever going to do well? It's content about D2C and I'm not a D2C guy. I don't even have a D2C agency. It's just some guy who's a vendor to e-commerce. Like,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
just
yeah,
not
yeah,
the right guy to be talking about this shit, right? Like
yeah.
I can't be a D2C email guy. I've never sent a D2C email, right? Like, so it just bothered me. I'm like, I don't understand why this would work, you know? So then I just started like making daily 3-minute videos about stuff going on in my business because that I'm an expert on. Right.
Yeah.
And I just, something about it, I'm like, there's no way I'm doing this the right way because I don't know what I'm doing. And everything that I know that I'm good at, I know that I know what I'm doing. It's kind of like if you can't pick out the idiot in the room, it's you. Right.
I
So
can
that
never
was,
pick out the idiot.
yeah. So like, that's kind of like, was my attitude about it. It's like, I know what I'm good at.
Yeah,
And if I think about when I was starting my first company 10 years ago, how much better I am at the stuff that I'm good at about being an entrepreneur, there is no comparison. Like I would
totally.
absolutely destroy that individual in, let's say, getting a startup off the ground in every aspect of it, like my intuition about the product, how I would like, think about creating the initial demand, like creating a minimum viable version of that product, like all of these things that are like absolutely essential to the early stages of a successful startup. I am 1,000 times more capable than I was 10 years ago. As far as the social media shit goes, I'm nowhere, right? Like I don't know what I'm doing, right? So like I switched from a ghostwriter and me making videos or whatever to like an actual consultant that's like helping me write. And then we started talking about this idea of this B2B product. And I started becoming more constructive on the feedback I was getting about just talking to people about it, right? Everybody was like, I'd pay $500 for that for sure. Right. So I was talking to my LinkedIn coach. I'm like, dude, like, I think this is pretty compelling. And like, the value seems more obvious than a lot of the other people that you're coaching. He coaches a lot of other
Mm.
B2B guys. Like, and he's like, I agree with you, definitely. And he's like, by the way, if you're selling something to salespeople or revenue leaders, they are on LinkedIn all day, every day. right? It's
Yep.
so much because we couldn't really. The original attempt was like, we're going to try to pull leads out of LinkedIn of Shopify founders, which is not like there's a bunch of agencies on LinkedIn
Yep.
who service
Go to
e-com.
Twitter.
The founders are not. Yeah, but Twitter's like, it's not set up to do it as well as LinkedIn.
Div.
Well, so let me tell you the motion that these guys do for LinkedIn when they're doing both consulting and lead gen. It's like you write this post and like so anyway, long story short, the post that I was like, let's see if I can write to salespeople and how it does.
Okay.
And like I started just writing about my experience this year, scaling a startup and the tribulations of building out a sales org and having to upsize and downsize and midsize and this, that's like I have this position which is just searing in people's. Everyone who has an SDR team, it's 10 times the size it should be because now SDRs do not create demand anymore. They capture demand. The
Yeah.
reason the team gets scaled out is because you can measure captured demand. And nobody who has scaled a BDR team in 2023 has seen book demos increase linearly with the amount of headcount. They have seen it at best very slightly rise, right? If you
Yeah.
had one
Yeah.
BDR who was
I
successful,
was reading
yeah,
your post
yeah,
about
yeah.
this the
If
other
you
day with
had one
Beats.
BDR
Yeah.
who was successful and you grew that team to 5, they are maybe 10% more productive than that one BDR is as an entire team.
Okay.
Why is that? It's because they're effectively getting in the way of something that was going to happen anyway.
Yeah.
It's like
And
people are learning about me from this podcast. They're not learning about it from my fucking BDR who's sending an
oh,
email. You know what I mean? It's like, think about your inbox. It's crazy, right? Like all of the people
yeah.
trying to sell you this shit over it's like it used to work, it doesn't. Like I don't know how else to say it, right? So I'm writing these posts, they're getting thousands of engagements, right? Like I would like write something for Shopify and like I'd get like 10,000 impressions maybe on average. Now it's like a bad post gets 100,000, right? Because it's
Wow. They're
and then
all
finally,
there. The people that you actually are wanting
and
to
by the
talk to and you're
way,
speaking to are there.
I am the subject matter expert on this. Whereas
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I am not the subject matter expert on ecom, which
Yeah.
I was always very troubled by.
Yeah.
I was like, how am I like even if I owned an agency, I would be the subject matter expert because like I would at least be executing campaigns for people. I could like tap into the knowledge that I'm gaining about working with a bunch of brands and talk about it. Like
Totally.
we have a SaaS app that we onboard in 3 hours and then we don't really do much after that, right? And it does one
Yeah.
thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
2 things. That's it.
Yeah.
Like in like I know literally everything about those 2 things, but like when it comes down to it, it's an optimization and it's like 2, 3, 4, 5% of someone's overall business at max. And there's only so much you want to hear about
Yeah.
it. The sales thing, it is the lifeblood of every B2B company. Everyone is feeling the pain that I felt this year.
Yeah.
I know for a fact because I see the engagements and I get hundreds of people connecting to me, writing to me, saying, oh my God, I have seen response rates plummet the last 12 months. I'm scratching my head. I don't know what to do. Right. Like,
Yeah.
so here's the motion, right? It's like, if you have this correct author to audience product market fit, right? Because now I'm the right guy to be saying this. And they happen to be on this platform, LinkedIn, rather than Twitter, like the DC guys are, then you do a post like that that gets 3,000 likes, literally 300 people will try to connect to you. So you can
Yeah.
go through, like I have like 4,000 connects in the last 3 weeks that we need to go through. So you go through the connections and you pick out the people in your ideal customer profile and you only allow them to connect because you only have 30,000 total.
Yeah.
So you only allow them to connect. Then you basically, sorry, I just got a text that was distracting. You basically,
We've all done it.
yeah, my wife's sending me stuff about this construction project we have going on. So you say, hey, what caught your attention? Which gets a message history going. And they're like, oh, I read the post on this and that. And it's like, cool. Like, how's outbound sales for you or whatever? And then they sort of spew back or whatever. You kind of let it die. And then because they inbound connected you and you accepted, they're going to get served your content priority over basically everything else. So you keep putting out these killer posts and it will serve them your best posts, right? because that's what LinkedIn does. It's not sequential. And 60 days later, they go back in and they're like, by the way, do you know what we do? And by that time, you're like a hero to these people. And that's Twitter's not set up that way. You know,
Yeah.
it just isn't
Yeah.
as good for that. So anyway, that like, I think it's sort of an unfair advantage for the B2B product to have this top of funnel thing that doesn't exist for me with the D2C world because of all of this stuff that I'm describing. It's like, well, I'm a guy who's bootstrapped 20 million ARR. I've grown and shrunk a sales force, you know, in the last 12 months. Like I have this unique view that SDR is like overstaffed and it's kind of an institution that you can take down. And there's like an old way, new way play. And, you know, there's an
Yeah.
inbound, outbound play. There's just so many reasons why this is in that motion that I described to me, it makes logical sense why that's going to work really well. Right. So all of that is a reason that I'm like way more constructive on this BDR thing than I would be
Cool.
if none of it existed.
I'm gonna say, Adam, too, from the outside perspective, I've noticed your content way more recently, probably because I also love the B2B world, right? As much as I'm like super heavy in D2C with the brands we own and stuff, it's like I love the B2B world. I love solving those problems, and so that's probably why I'm getting served your stuff. Adam, we're running out of time here. I got to ask you the question that I ask everyone who comes on the podcast: what is your secret to scaling?
Man, I wish I knew. Taking it one day at a time, trying not to fuck up too badly, you know,
That's
that's
good.
it, man.
Minimizing downsides.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All of this, getting the right team around me, those are probably the biggest. That's probably the
Yeah.
biggest one, you know, the right team who knows what they're doing for appropriate to the given stage or whatever, you know.
Yeah. Adam, thanks so much for coming on the podcast today. Awesome to chat with you. Really glad that I got to dive into the retention.com stuff, though I'm really interested to see what this B2B service looks like, or this B2B product looks like, and how this, may potentially change, how we look at BDRs and SDRs and this whole world here. So really pumped about that. Where can people follow you and connect with you?
I'm doing the most on LinkedIn. It's Retention Adam. If you want to learn about company, retention.com, you can email me, adam@retention.com. Those are probably the top three.
Oh, before you go, Adam, how much did you pay for that URL?
800 grand.
Okay. I told someone,
Yeah.
I think it was around $1 million. So
Yeah. Yeah.
in
The one,
Canadian.
like the one word, you know, and like Sean from ridge.com, I think he like, cause I made it, I tweeted about this and it got a lot of, he's like, oh, you know, people are saying they spend so much on their domains. Like I got mine for 100 grand, but like ridge is not a word that like a B2B, you know, it's like if you have a word that a serious B2B industry would want, you know, then it's
Yeah.
like $1 million domain. It's like, it's not absolutely perfect for what we do, but it's like the most perfect. It's like one of these, the authority of it is unbelievable.
Absolutely. I
It's
think
incredible.
Hormozy paid around 500,000 for acquisition. Like,
Yeah.
these are big words,
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. Half a
well,
million,
thank
a
you.
million bucks. Like that's what a mega domain is going to be. And then
Yeah.
something that's like not as commercial, but is still a short word, like 100 grand, 200 grand. If you get lucky, maybe 50, you know, but yeah.
Also, Sean would have talked shit to you either way. So it doesn't really
Right.
matter.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's what he loves to
Probably
do.
right.
Thanks for your time today, Adam.
All right. Take care.